I'd be working in the development sector, I think. It's still something that interests me deeply, and I think I've always, I did economics thinking that I would do developmental economics later as, as my postgrad specialization. But, film and more than film, just the arts were my first love, and I decided to pursue that. But if I had a chance, and then I realized, of course, developmental work or work in the social sector doesn't need a degree and certainly just needs intent. So I said I should do what I love because I can always do that later. So I would, if I didn't do film, I would most definitely be working in the social sector. Our cinema is largely so escapist. How are we amplifying it? Unfortunately, we don't even really address what's going on in much of our country, in our cinema today. That's my big problem. So I don't feel we amplify it enough. I feel that, we went through a whole phase of extremely violent cinema in the 80s with, all the one-man beating.
The violence.
Yes, yeah. And even the 90s actually, for some period with Sunny Deol and all the action heroes and one guy beating up many people. And usually it was always a fight of, a street guy beating up goons or a poor man beating up a villain, etc. So there was always, ideologically, it was always balanced the right way, but of course violence was always there. And I think violence continues to be there in cinema across the world. I'm not a great admirer or proponent of violent films. I would say our films are actually highly non-violent compared to, say, Korean films or the films of other Southeast Asian countries, where it's extremely graphic and gruesome, and in fact many films in the West as well, even films made by well-known people such as the Coen brothers, they have very, very violent films. I think we are creating content that's probably more reflective of us as a people. It's a bit scary for me because I don't actually subscribe to a lot of what comes on fiction, television, or for instance on screens as films. But certainly, yes, there's a lot more of us in our movies, and I'm happy to say that even in big mainstream Hindi, Tamil, etc., different language films of India, there is a sense that there is not just a sort of a standardized formulaic story or hero. And there is a little more subtlety coming through, whether it's a regional stories or stories, different women characters. I do feel that it's growing, so I do feel we're getting there. It's certainly nowhere close to where I hope it'll get.